All right, today I'm going to try to get into the ARP a little bit, the chord ARP specifically, and we're going to try to understand the octave setting. And so currently I have a chord ARP that's off. I just have a single 16-step chord, and the chord is just a C2 major. And that's just for simplicity, just so we can kind of get into it and easily see what's happening when you change the octave parameter. So real quick, one setting that is important just for understanding, I don't usually leave this on, but this helps us understand and have a repeatable pattern for that octave setting. If you go into config performance and then you go down to ARP pattern reset on note change, every time that every time the sequencer starts or the chord changes, your pattern will reset, which is sort of helpful to understand what's happening. So what I have here is a chord sequencer, and if you just listen to it with no ARP on, you'll hear it's very basic. Okay, and then if we turn the ARP on, I'll just, for simplicity, keep it in the first pattern, which is chord up. You'll hear the difference here. Okay, and so that's just a repeating upward pattern, just a standard ARP. Now, what's happening with the octave is a lot of people think that's going to repeat octaves up. And so if we turn just one, you're like, okay, it's going to play the first 3 steps at the root octave, and then the next 3 would be the octave up. That's not actually what happens. So let's just listen. Okay, and so now what you're hearing is a little bit of a pattern that's occurring. And so every 5 steps, it goes up 1 octave. And so what I've done here is prepared a pattern on a multi-sequencer where you can see we have a 5-step on this first track. This equals our first setting on that octave. And this one lit note right here is just going to be the point where that octave jumps up. And so it's a 5-step pattern, and it's 1 pulse on that step that goes an octave up. And if this is working right, you'll see that every time, just pay attention to the bottom first row, because that's our setting over here on the chord sequencer 1. So I'm just showing you the pattern on this first track. Again, just pay attention to the first track. Jump, jump, jump. Okay, and so what's happening with the next one? So if we go back to the chord sequencer, octave, we turn it to 2. You can see on my pattern here, we actually have a 6-step pattern with 2 pulses. The pulses are side by side. So just pay attention to our second, oops, that was an error. Pay attention to our second track right here. Disregard the others. Those are the other settings. And so if we start again, jump, 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 jump. Okay, and so now every time that we go back into the chord up, and the chord arpeggiator, and we go to octave, we jump to 3. If I come back here, you'll see this pattern on row 3 here is a 7-step pattern, and then 3 pulses. And so every time we jump up, you get a new extra step and an extra pulse, and that's your pattern that is going to be repeating, which is more simple to hear right now on the chord sequencer, the chord ARP, because we have a very basic chord that doesn't change, and then we have just a very basic chord arpeggiator pattern that doesn't change. And so now you can hear it every time we go up. You'll see how the pattern just adds 1 step to the length of the pattern and then 1 more pulse in a row. We're on row 3. Jump, jump, jump. Jump, jump, jump. Jump, jump, jump. And so if we just continue that through real quick, we'll just do the others. Now we're on row 4. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Go back to our chord arp. Go to 5. That's this row, row 5. Okay, and so you can hear it just keeps adding that one extra step to the pattern and one extra pulse. So we'll go back, we'll do 6. Okay, and then the last one is 7. All right, so that's basically what's happening, and now the question is, well, what about our first question about how do we get the chord to actually repeat itself? That is actually going to be handled more by the step chord menu, and then the spread. Okay, so you see my spread here is 0, so it's not going to spread until I actually either turn this first encoder, which I can do from the step menu, but it is a little less easy to access there. So what I've done is I've actually mapped that to a mod lane 3 here. And one thing you can take note of is that my mod lane only has 5%. That's my choice when I do these parameters. I usually limit the percentage so that I have full range of the grid. And the way you do that is if there's 5 or 6 values of a parameter, like in the case of spread, you take your 6, divide it by the full range of what a mod lane could control, which is 127, and you'll end up with a little less than 5% here. And so what'll happen is as you're turning your spread up, it's no longer one point is one spread. It doesn't work that way. Now it's, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, that kind of thing. So it goes across the whole range. And I do that because you can do, quick movements like that. It's very hard to dial in on just, one number. You have to go step at a time for like 4, 5, 3. And then another reason is I do this shift random a lot, and that gets me a lot of randomizing on the mod lane. And then I'll clean it up, if I want to. So to hear this, we'll turn it all the way down and we'll check our arp. You can see I've got octave on, but I'm going to turn that off. Chord is up, simple chord. You'll hear it. It's just our basic pattern again. Go to the mod lane and I'll start to turn up spread. And this is where you'll hear the octave, how you may be expecting it. Chord repeats. Get more, chord repeats. At the end of the chord. This will go all the way. All right, so that's a little more similar to the traditional arpeggiator octave setting where it'll just jump the notes up. And so again, that's chord spread, which you either assign to modulation or you do it from the step chord menu on your particular chord. So if you have several chords, you can choose to do that on one or more of the chords within your grid. Just to kind of mention here again about this pattern, that setting in config resets this pattern. And so if we go back to performance and you go to keyboard, ARP, pattern reset on note change, this setting, if you turn it off, that pattern, yes means it's going to reset, no means the pattern does not reset. And the way that works with the octave is that this 5-step 1-pulse pattern still exists. It's just that as you stop and start your sequencer, that pulse is going to change on which step it falls on, because your pattern starts on a new step every time. And so if we want to hear that real quick, you can see there's just our basic pattern. And let me turn spread off. And if we turn our pattern on and come back here to watch it, see it fell on the 5th step. If I stop the sequencer, fell on the 4th step. Now if I stop the sequencer and start again, now it's on the 3rd step. So that'll carry for any of these number of patterns. Another couple things to mention is this octave can go up and down. It is more rhythmic. You can see, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Keyboard, now we're back on the chord arp. This octave parameter can go up and down. And then we didn't get into it, but it is also going to be governed by the length and pulse settings too, which is sort of like a Euclidean mask for the overall pattern. So even if you have, you may not hear it all the way if the octave step is falling on a step that's masked by the Euclidean. So you have to sort of be aware of that. Well, that's kind of the octave setting in the chord arp. Hope that was helpful.